There are no more Monday meetings this term, though there will of course be a meditation meeting on Tuesday the 13th of December at 7:15. Then the Mevlana festival is on Friday the 16th of December. Friday the 16th. Turners should be ready to robe at 7 o'clock, and the Mukabele starts at 7:30. The list in the hall of food to be brought is not very long. So would each of the ladies who is coming be sure that she has put her name down on the list? That is only people who are going to watch, isn't it? Oh no, Turners as well, yes, I see. Everybody who's coming, yeah.
To the Mukabele.
To the Mukabele. And by the same token, the men who are coming make a contribution towards the drink. Would group takers please be sure to announce all these dates and times to their groups this week? Then the house and the office will be closed from Thursday evening, the 22nd of December, until Tuesday midday on the 3rd of January. There will be a meditation meeting on Tuesday the 10th of January. We're now on to next year. The turning practices begin on the 17th of January, with the first Mukabele on Friday the 20th. Then the first large Monday meeting next term will be on January the 23rd, but the groups will probably begin the week before that, because with an early Easter the term will otherwise be rather short. We'd like to thank all those volunteers who came to the working parties from other groups during this term. Their assistance has been very valuable and is much appreciated.
I'd like just to say that when we meet again in January, Allan Howard of New Zealand will be staying with us for a month with his wife, Bridget. Nolan, having been to India for 4 or 5 days of audiences with the Shankaracharya, so he'll come with that fresh energy, and it'll be very good to have him among us again. And hear how the Harrises have been getting on since their return there to Wellington. About life and death, there's rather a nice little story that Alice Boughton puts in her letter about a friend talking of past events in the presence of his small grandnephew, who said, "Where was I when, Uncle? You weren't born then." "Child, but Uncle, I wasn't never, not nowhere." And children know this very well. It's the grown-ups who forget it. Now, actual meetings, reports of which I've read, the idea of the drama seemed to be catching on. It's a very difficult idea to assimilate in its real meaning. But in reading 6, I put 2 questions of Lord Allan's which drew answers at our recent audiences from the Shankaracharya on this subject. And the second of those, which I leave to you in your last meetings this week, gives us rather a good go-ahead for Christmas and the New Year. But now I will get Allan to read a question of his which I'd like to discuss this evening.
The question was, how can school people help each other to be natural? And the Secretariat said, to be natural is to be straight and pure. And if one achieves this, then one is certainly natural. But being natural should not be taken to mean that one should be crude or naked. The whole of creation, after all, is a drama, a play. And the whole play has to be performed in a particular style and manner. There is a role for each actor, a costume for each actor, positions and actions for each actor, and lines for him to speak. Unless an actor wears the costume designed for his role, if he doesn't use the lines written for the part, then he will not affect the audience in the way the producer intends. So, if the play is to be performed, it must be done in the right way to produce the required effect on the audience and give them the pleasure which the play is designed to produce. To respond to the appropriate dress, the proper language, and the proper distance between the audience and the players is also a part of the natural presentation of the play. When one says that one has to be natural, therefore, one must keep this in mind and keep the right distance from anyone with whom one has to establish a relation. What one has to watch is that one's performance should not get crooked or artificial. One should not elaborate, but do only what is necessary. If we learn to keep to this, then our role and the whole play will be true to nature.
That will take a little time to sink in, but it's clear that when H.H. the Secretariat speaks of the drama, he's speaking in a very impersonal way and from a very high point of view, where Brahma the Absolute is the author of the play and lays down certain laws, the law of three forces, the law of cause and effect, and others, conscious beings, are left to be producer, director, and all the other parts in such a constantly, consciously produced drama. Delobinia, seat up here. And this is in contrast to all the mechanically produced dramas and mini plays which are going on all the time in creation. We are trying to learn how to play in a consciously produced drama. Our ordinary lives go by the laws of nature, cause and effect. But here, we try to learn how to play our particular role consciously. Any questions now about this?
Mrs. Gould says, who is the audience?
In our particular drama, which is done in private, except on rare occasions where guests from all over were invited by Mr. Uspensky to come to his psychological lectures or his talks in America. The audience is ourselves. In those dramas and many plays of creation, then the audience is again ourselves, but watching to learn from all that goes on around us. And we meet with the reactions of this audience in the media, television, papers, and so on. It's all for learning. I'm only just learning, so what I say mustn't be taken too seriously.
Dr. Lawrence, when you first visited the Shankar, you said that you took no interpreter with you, but interpreted till enough. Is that a part of this problem?
You said the other day that when you first went to see the Shankaracharya, you took no interpreter, but interpreter turned up. Is that part of the drama?
Well, when I first met the Shankaracharya, the Maharishi was interpreting. When I had a private talk with him at the end of that stay, and he said it's very important to continue the connection between you and me, we were at a loss as to how to find the way to his ashram. We didn't know where it was and how to understand anything of what he said. And it was after that, when we'd had an invitation for the following year, 1962, that a member of the School of Economic Science was sent along by the head of the school to us, who had been born and lived his early life within a mile of the ashram, was a student of Hindi and Sanskrit, and also knew quite a bit about our system and our language. And this is one of the things that make me feel that though we as actors didn't know our parts, yet we were like puppets being moved by some mighty force who was pulling the strings. You see what I mean? Everything is worked out marvelously in an unforeseeable way that we've always had to play from day to day, trying to do what is right, but without knowing why, what for. And the same applies to Mr. Uspensky, who said that about himself. Any questions?
Would you describe the conscious drama as a play within a play of ordinary life?
Would you describe the conscious drama as a play within the play of ordinary life?
Yes, yes. Any consciously produced and directed drama must have reference to the life around at a particular time in a particular country. And the thing about consciously produced drama is that it has to be a little different every time, according to the country and the times, you see. Whereas mechanical dramas go on and on and on, forever.
Dr. Rose, it seems that one would have to be fairly high up the ladder to be able to see the drama and know the role you're playing. Can you say something like that?
It would seem that we would have to be fairly high up the ladder to know and appreciate the drama. Can you say anything about that?
Well, the higher up the mountain, the greener grows the grass. None of us can know the whole thing, but the more we know, the more intelligently we play our parts. But each one can know what his or her capabilities are and in what way they can be useful to this drama. From very early on, people at the new groups are showing this, and we improve on that gradually as we know more. Everybody is valuable. I want to call attention again to the Secretary's injunction. We have to keep in mind that everything must be done according to the will of the producer and the author of the play. And when one has learned to be natural, one has to watch that one's performance doesn't become selfish, artificial, and one should not elaborate or improvise, you used the expression, one to...
But he said, I think, add to or take from.
It depends what drama, you see. But to do only what is necessary. We must learn to keep to this. This applies very much to the smaller dramas within our own immediate experience, to the Mukabele and the tradition of Mevlana. There should not be innovations by individuals. It's a consciously produced and directed tradition. It's the same with the movements we do to music. And we try to keep those as they were given us, with the same music and without improvisation and introduction of any changes. The only difference would be in that whereas we learnt them in a very harsh atmosphere and we were terrified, nowadays we try and be as happy as possible and free from fear. Come on, these questions are very interesting. Peter, Mark.
Dr. Rose, the Mukabele seems a very good example of what the drama is about, because it seems that the turner is the actor and has to be receptive to what the author or the Sheikh Effendi wants. And at the same time, he has to obey the seven Sambashi, who sees the whole pattern and is active.
Yeah. Speedy says that he thinks the Mukabele is a very good example of what we've been talking about, because in it, the turner is the actor and has to be receptive to the will of the Sheikh Effendi. At the same time, he has to obey the Samadhan Bashi, who sees the whole pattern of the evening.
Yes. And he has to be very sensitive to the symbolism of the Mukabele and to the music. It's a marvelous opportunity. And
it has to keep the distance, which the Sheikh talks about.
The Swede says, and the turner has to keep the distance.
Yes, in a very literal sense. But there's a lot more in that expression that Shankaracharya uses about keeping your distance. Because the leader of a school, the temporary leader, has to keep his distance from individuals before he can help them. If he can be rung up at any time about any trivial thing and is on slap and tickle terms with everybody. He can't help it. He's not playing his part right. Any questions about this? And leading up to what I want to show you from Mr. Uspensky about something very particular as regards this after we've meditated later on. But let's go on with this conversation and see if we can understand more. Mr. Uspensky used to say, as we came back to Lion Place after a meeting, sometimes in light-hearted mood, what were we all doing together in the last life? It's evident we were all together, or you wouldn't be here. We didn't know the system at all in last time. That I'm certain of, he said. So what were we doing? Talking philosophy, or what? This time we know more, but I don't think this is the final performance. And we've been assured that a lot of the unnecessary part of the drama this time won't be necessary next time. There won't be a Lion Place, for instance.
Can it only be appreciated on the line of the fifth dimension, Doctor? And is that equal to the fifth step of the ladder?
I got most of that. I didn't get the very beginning of it because somebody else was talking. What was...
Can it be only understood
Yes.
on the line of the fifth dimension?
Yes.
And is that equivalent to the fifth step of the ladder?
Yes. Can this be only understood, this drama, in relation to the fifth step of the ladder, the fifth dimension rather, and is this the same as the fifth step of the ladder?
No, don't mix the two ideas up. The fifth dimension, in Mr. Uspensky's terminology, is a law of the universe, the eternal repetition of every cycle. The line of time is not a straight line coming from nowhere and ending in nowhere. It's a circle, and there's small circles within bigger circles. And the fifth dimension means the continual repetition of a given cycle, with or without differences. Now, you ask how this can be understood by us, and it lies in the present moment now, because the creator, the producer and the director are timeless and are always now, and we meet and can ask our questions of them only in the present moment. No good thinking about the future and what we're going to do next time and what we did last time. That was only put in as a joke. The present moment now will give you the answers.
You said that the fourth way is linked to the customs of the society at any one time, the drama of the fourth way. Could you say something about the relationship between the two things, the inner drama of the school and the outer drama of everyday life or the society?
You said that the dramas of the fourth way were, as it were, mirrors of the customs of the society of that day. Can you say anything about the relationship between the inner and outer dramas?
Well, the fourth way is in contrast to the traditional ways, which always have fixed form, fixed temples, fixed rituals. The fourth way happens in real life itself, and has every player in this drama has to carry out his own life at the same time as learning his role in this particular consciously produced play. I think it's for you to look at your life, Anthony, and see how that works. You've managed pretty well so far.
What about the school as a whole? Or something more about the school as a whole, as opposed to just the individual members of it?
What about the school as a whole, rather than the individual members of it?
Well, this is what we have to try and understand, and it used to be called in our system third line of work, to understand about the function of the school as a whole in relation to the world around at that time. For instance, when we first met up with this, it was between the two wars, and life was altogether different from the way life is now. And then we had to weather World War II. Mr. Uspensky had to weather the revolution in World War I, come to a strange country. These changes had to be taken into account. At that time, things had to be kept very strict and kept very close and very secret. I don't think the same thing is true now. Certain things still have to be kept secret, but we are to introduce the meditation, for instance, to as many people as possible. Enormous food for thought here.
Dr. Rose, could you liken the work of the school to that of, say, a ballet company whose members are so dedicated, have such ideas that their work influences the rest of dance throughout the world?
Could you liken
Mr. Hazen.
Mrs. Hazen, yes, this to a school, to a ballet company whose members are so dedicated to their work that they have a big influence on dance throughout the world?
Mrs. Connell here.
Yes, yes.
Can I say yes to that?
I think so.
There are ballet companies and ballet companies, but we're talking of one which was created almost out of nothing and has become a national asset. And in this case, it's certainly true.
Have the traditional ways in some way ceased to fulfill their original function? Is this why the fourth way is becoming more important now?
This is Keeping again. As traditional ways seem to have failed to fulfill their original function, is this why things are now developing this way now, the fourth way now?
Well, I wouldn't say that they'd failed at all. I would say that they have been of the utmost value in their time. But in the 1970s, they don't play such a vast role as they did, for instance, in the Middle Ages, monastic life, and so on. But I don't think they failed at all. And in fact, I think they're due for resurrection, their influence. Because they've only dwindled in their influence because of people not very far up the ladder. Their founders were inspired. And there is evidence that Mount Athos is undergoing a resurrection at the moment. It dwindled during last war to about 6 monks, 6 hermits. It's now full of real, genuine aspirants. Mr. Stravinsky used to say, everything has had to be as it has been. There's so many causes, so many interwoven things, that there has always been only one way, and that is the way things have kept happening. Well, supposing we come back a little nearer home to the present moment, does any of this sort out some of your problems as individuals? How do you see that you can derive profit from this idea of the drama?
Would you say that as individuals we can learn about our roles in the drama, the conscious drama, to some extent from communication with people around us? Is there anything you could say on that?
Mr. Newton, who's there now, saying, could you say that, or individuals learn their roles in the conscious drama through communication with people around them? Could you say anything about that?
Well, partly, yes. They have been molded in a certain way to fit their environment from very early on. But they learn chiefly from making efforts to help in this drama and watching what they're asked to do, what their particular line is.
What would you say about people's aspirations? I mean, is this the reason why some people who seem talented and have aspirations, nothing comes of it, and in other cases, they're fulfilled?
Could you say anything about aspirations? There seem to be some cases where people who have aspirations and nothing comes of it, and at other times when their aspirations are fulfilled.
And talents. Some people have talents.
And talents as well as aspirations.
Well, of course, everybody has good aspirations at some time, unless those good aspirations fit the circumstances. Then they don't come off. But it's really no blame to the people. Keep having good aspirations. And, for instance, Jean Couturier says, don't think you're a failure because your good aspirations haven't had any result. Maybe the time has not yet come when you can put those aspirations into effect. There's a lot in timing. Mr. Haseman, I want your help in this matter of the drama, and I just wanted you to realize that Jean Couturier is speaking on a very high and impersonal level about the author, the producer, directors, and so on. But you could help very much. There must be also script writers, and so on.
I wanted to ask something about the script. Could you say something about that, please?
Could you also say something about script?
You get all too many scripts every week. Well, there's some with a talent that way, aren't there? I mean, in the BBC there are.
What I
But in what sense do you mean?
meant, right language.
Lines. Yes, Sukhsini says that she thought the Shankaracharya said we had to learn the right language, but he said the lines, didn't he?
Yes, each role has its own lines, its own costume, its own actions, and so on. We have to try to see what kind of role we can play, find the appropriate costume, or be assigned the appropriate costume and the appropriate lines.
Doesn't this all depend upon communication with the director?
Doesn't it all depend on communication with the director?
It really does, yes.
Is this not an individual thing?
And is this not an individual thing?
Yes, it is. Remember that it's not only, he's not only talking about the physical level and the physical picture we get of a drama and the people and communication by means of scripts and so on. He's speaking also from the point of view of the subtle level, about communication without words. And on the causal level, everything is one. And the particular play may be only an embryo and may not have come into existence yet.
Isn't it also teamwork after all? Because if we hadn't met the work, we shouldn't know anything about it, should we?
Isn't it, Mrs. Gould said, isn't it also teamwork? For if we didn't have teamwork,
No, if we hadn't met Mr. Ouspensky's work, we shouldn't know anything about it.
because if we hadn't met Mr. Ouspensky's work, we wouldn't know anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. This is all a big hand has played this, because we would never have understood anything that the Shankaracharya has said if we hadn't met Mr. Ouspensky. And undoubtedly teamwork is necessary for any company of actors. We're not out for a one-man show. Now, supposing we keep that on ice a moment and we meditate, then I'd like to read you something. This is about Christmas. When we're celebrating the real Christmas, we might keep in mind one aspect of it within its general message of peace on earth, goodwill towards men. And that is in relation to the drama. And those who've read A New Model of the Universe will remember that there's some very cogent references in it to the idea of the drama, particularly in relation to the ideal drama of the life of Christ. I'd like you to be reading those parts of the New Model, chiefly page 27, page 156, and around page 500. And I'll just quote some little bits of it, which are relevant to what we've been discussing. The chief difference between the mysteries as they were performed in Egypt and Greece and the mystery which was played in Palestine lies in the fact that the latter was played in real life, not on the stage, but amidst real nature, seas and mountains, in the streets and public places of real towns, with a real crowd, with real nails, with real sufferings. All the actors in that drama knew their parts and acted them in accordance with a general plan, which accorded with the aim and purpose of the play. Every actor knew what words he had to say and at what moment. In studying the drama of Christ, it is necessary to separate the legendary element, which is often borrowed from the life stories of other messiahs, prophets, and incarnations of God. From the narration of the actual life of Christ, of Jesus, and then to separate the legends, the events of that life from the teachings which it illustrated. About the legendary element, the idea of God sacrificing himself for the salvation of men exists also in Indian and other mythologies. The god Shiva drank the poison which was to poison the whole of mankind. Therefore, many of the statues of his statues have the throat painted blue. It's the same with Krishna, who sucked the poison from men, and in his portraits, the blue color of his skin preserved. We were very fortunate in seeing the Krishna cycle performed by the best actors in India, put on for us by the Shankaracharya, and also the Rama cycle from the Ramayana. Now, on page 499, Mr. Ushensky asks the question, is it possible that all the dramatis personae of the gospel drama are destined eternally to play their parts, eternally to say the same words, do the same thing? The answer he gave was no, not in general, that there are two kinds of role illustrated in the Gospels, conscious and unconscious. In the conscious roles, there may be changes. There may be assignment of certain roles to different actors. One may play the hero, one may play the villain, and one may even play Christ. But unconscious roles cannot change. The unconscious roles of the gospel drama are firmly fixed in their invariable repetition. What else can a man cry who has cried, "Crucify him"? What can Pilate say or do differently? He can only wash his hands of the matter again and again. So, although in our little tiny sector, we're very far from there, yet it is a marvelous privilege to be called on to act in a small drama intimately connected with the big drama, and bigger still, right back to the beginning of civilization. So we should learn to play our parts as well as we possibly can, each for himself, and in relation to the drama as a whole, so far as we understand it. Well, I hope you all have a very happy Christmas, and I think you deserve well So enjoy it. Beautiful day, always afraid to look back. And see if it's still
It's all right.